Bon tarde to everyone over there. Warm greetings here from from Bogota, the capital of Colombia. My name is 𝗍𝗶𝗱𝗲, and I am here with my colleague 𝗍𝗶𝗱𝗲. And even though we have the same last name, work for the same organization, we have actually no further relation, at least as far as we know. We will be giving you the webinar today, and if it's okay, I will start to share my screen, so you can also see the presentation. And how will we do the webinar today? We will tell you about different things. First of all, I will tell you something about the Colombian economy. I will tell you something about cultural differences or also similarities that the Colombian culture has also with Curaçao. And then Wouter will take over for the trade relationship, the commercial relationship that exists between Curaçao and Colombia. He will tell you something about specific opportunities for you as entrepreneurs from Curaçao. And finally, we will announce our trade mission that we will organize in just a couple of months, and where we hope to see many of you present here in Colombia. So let's get right into it. And before we talk about all of that, I want to also tell you a little bit about who is Holland House Colombia. What is Holland House Colombia? And we are the Dutch-Colombian Chamber of Commerce. So we do trade promotion between the Kingdom of the Netherlands and Colombia. So we do many different activities. We do matchmaking, where we bring people with each other in contact, entrepreneurs. We do market studies, we do trade fairs, and we do, of course, trade missions like the one we are announcing to you today. We were the first Holland House in the world. We were started in 2013, and we have seen quite good growth, and now we are actually being humble by saying that we are a top 3 bilateral chamber of commerce in Colombia, because we are the largest of the European chambers, at least in members. Only larger than us is the American Chamber of Commerce, which is also quite logical, seeing as it's a very large country. But we are, of course, quite proud to say we are bigger than the Germans, the French, the Spanish, the Italians. So very, very happy with that. And how do we work? We are a not-for-profit organization. We are not subsidized by the government. We are fully privately funded, although we do have a very strong relationship, of course, with the government in the Netherlands, with the embassy here, with different entities, for example, also the Chamber of Commerce of Curaçao, and also on the different islands. And we are an association of companies. So we have members, and we have currently 467 members, of which 33 are from Curaçao. So quite a nice number of companies from Curaçao that are already active in Colombia and that are also members of our organization. And this is because of the strong relationship that we have with your island, and especially with the Curaçao Chamber of Commerce for many years. And actually one of our board members is also a board member of the Curaçao Chamber of Commerce, Billy Jonk here. He was the president for many years of the Curaçao Chamber, and also a board member of us. And this just highlights our corporation. So who are these members? Of course, we have quite a varied group of members. This is just a little section, and we see, of course, some of the Dutch multinationals. We see also Colombian companies. We see companies from Aruba, also from Curaçao. This is something, and we work basically in all different sectors. So we see that, for example, agriculture is a big sector, services is a big sector. This can be consulting, this can be financial services, this can be software. We see that logistics, healthcare, energy, these are also all quite significant sectors for us. So what have we done with Curaçao over the years, over the 12 years that we exist? Already over 10 trade missions, of course, many in person. We also had a couple or one virtual digital mission during the COVID-19 pandemic. And this has led to over 25 Curaçao-based companies already having opened offices in Colombia. And we also keep getting requests from Curaçao companies, from Colombian companies that say, hey, I want to speak more actually to Curaçao, especially now in the last couple of weeks. We get quite a couple from Colombian companies that are a bit scared because they export a lot to the United States, for example. And maybe you have seen in the news that there was a little friction between President Trump in the US and President Petro here in Colombia over immigration. And Trump threatened them or threatened us here with 25% tariffs. And this means that many of the Colombian companies, well, they are kind of in a frenzy looking for diversification of possible markets. And they are really looking also towards the Caribbean region and towards their, the neighbors here almost with Curaçao as well. So this is just a little preview of also maybe things that Wouter will tell you more about the opportunities for you. So who are these 25 companies that have already opened offices? Again, some have opened offices, others have not. We have just a selection of our members from Curaçao here, and we see also quite a varied group. So we can think of airlines, we can think of technology, we can think of services where we have lawyers, we have financial services, we have investment. Here there's another group where we see also different consultants, we see logistics sector. So this is just a selection of the different companies that have gone before you to Colombia, have been successful in Colombia, have maybe started offices or are traveling regularly, and have also good relationships with us here at Holland House, Colombia. So that was a bit of the introduction, and now we will go a bit more into Colombia itself. So let's start with the key data. We see here more than 52 million inhabitants. This makes it the third largest country in Latin America in terms of population. So only Brazil and Mexico are larger, and after some challenges in the Argentinian economy over the last couple of years, it's also the third largest economy in South America. So we can see here $363 billion of GDP per capita, nearly 7,000. This is about a third of Curaçao. So Curaçao has, I think, about 22,000 in GDP per capita. So that gives you maybe an idea of the purchasing power. At the same time, as you might be aware of, Colombia can also be a country with great inequalities. So if you have a more premium product, also there is actually quite a substantial market, because of those 52 million inhabitants, there's also a good section that has money to spare, and that is quite a bit over this GDP per capita number if you look at their personal income as well. This large population also means that it's quite a varied economy, right? So we have here all types of different industry, we have all types of different markets for the local population, and also the tourists that come here. So that also brings with it many opportunities for you as an entrepreneur. The language here is Spanish, and the currency is Colombian pesos. A dollar is about 4,000, a bit more than 4,000 pesos. So that's good to keep in mind, that when you do a proposal to a Colombian company, or they ask what's the price, you usually quite quickly get into the millions. So I always say we are all millionaires here in Colombia. That happens quite quick. So also a minimum wage is more than 1 million pesos monthly, for example. What is good to know also is that Colombia uses the dollar sign as their own currency sign as well. So, for example, if you book a hotel and they send you a quote and it says, I don't know, 300,000, and it says a dollar sign, it's luckily not 300,000 US, but just 300,000 pesos, which is maybe about $70 or something, something more reasonable. So that is good to keep in mind if you are, for example, going to participate in the trade mission, that you are not maybe startled by that. The Doing Business ranking, this is a ranking made by the World Bank, and it kind of looks at how easy is it to do business in a country. And where the Netherlands is 42, Colombia was 67. So this means that because of stable macroeconomic policies and because of the many trade agreements that they have and different things like this, Colombia is actually an economy open for business. At the same time, you see the ranking is maybe a bit lower than, for example, in the Netherlands. We can see that this is mainly because there's still a bit more bureaucracy than we can maybe see in the Netherlands or also on Curaçao. So that's also good to keep in mind, but usually not an obstacle. And the main thing is to get good partners, right? So let yourself be helped by us from Holland House, by maybe a good cargo agent, customs agent. These kind of companies will do all the work for you, of course, for a fee, but it's good to keep this in mind and to make use of their services. So what about their economy here in Colombia? I already mentioned it a little bit because of the relatively large population. There is really opportunities in many different sectors. And we see that Colombia is also developing in different sectors and in different types of demands. We see a rising middle class also that has more demand for different types of products or also experiences. So Wouter will tell you more about the specifics, but it's good to keep in mind that it's really a quite diverse country in many ways and also economically. Strategically located, so it has the Caribbean coast really close to Curaçao and also to Aruba and Bonaire. And it has the Pacific coast on the other side. So this makes it quite easy for Colombia to have trade relationships with, of course, the Caribbean region, but also the US, both coasts of the US, with Europe, also with Asia, within Latin America, with also other countries on the Pacific side, like Peru or Chile, and on the Atlantic side, also with, for example, Brazil. So it has quite a strategic location. Port of Cartagena, also an important port here in the region. So this always helps for doing business. It also has a tech ecosystem, quite ambitious tech ecosystem, where we see that in the broader region, for example, Sao Paulo has a very good cluster. We see that also, for example, Medellin or Bogota is also in the top cities for startups, and various tech unicorns, like maybe 𝘞𝘩𝘢𝘵, have come out of Colombia, or Nubank is quite famous, is Brazilian, but with a Colombian founder. So we see that also in the tech area, and for example, fintech or other types of software, Colombia is also really ambitious and see many different projects pop up. As I said, it has an open economy. It has many trade agreements. About 65 countries have free trade agreements with Colombia. Of course, often these are group agreements, such as with the European Union, or you have the Pacific Alliance, or different kind of groupings like this. I think it's about 17 agreements that lead to access with 65 countries. And also it is quite good in human talent. So maybe some of you are working for recruiting agencies or think of doing business process outsourcing. Colombia also is very, very good for this. So you see that, for example, the software engineers will learn English and then work for US, American, Canadian, or also Caribbean companies. It's all in the same or similar time zones. You see that there's many call centers here in Bogota and in different cities, very large call centers, usually for other countries in the region or also for the US. And you see that a lot of the young population is going to university, is getting their degrees, is maybe more focused also still on things such as engineering or, well, also hospitality. So you see many different sectors also represented in the human talent aspect of the economy. So what is then interesting for you from Curaçao? We see, of course, first of all, the geographical proximity. You are only 1 hour removed in time zone. For me right now, and for Wouter as well, it's 3:23, and for you it will be 4:23. So that is really useful if you want to have a quick call during the day, if you want to have a Zoom meeting. Well, that's just quite easy to organize, and certainly easier than for example, a person from the Netherlands. And this also translates in travel time. So you have different flights, Avianca, Wingo, that travel between Colombia, different airports, and between Curaçao. This is about a 1.5 hour flight. So this also makes it easy to maybe pop over, of course, in Colombia and maybe also in Curaçao. The relationship between business people is very important. So this geographical proximity facilitates that. And also, if you are trading goods instead of maybe services, then it's only 1 or 2 days from Cartagena or Barranquilla ports. We have 3 feeders going, 3 ships on a weekly basis from different companies. So there's also a couple of opportunities to send maybe a container if you are doing trade in goods. Common language, I know, of course, that Spanish is maybe not an official language in Curaçao, but in my experience, we have had many entrepreneurs from Curaçao coming over here, and you are true polyglots. So you speak often, of course, Papiamento, you speak Dutch, English, and many times also Spanish. So that really helps here in Colombia to speak Spanish. You see the tourism sector as a similarity. You see many people. It's also a trend, I think, to come to Colombia from different countries, from the Caribbean region, from America, or from Europe as well. Many people coming, maybe similar to Curaçao. So if you also have solutions in the tourism sector, then be sure to have a look at Colombia. If you talk about, for example, more efficient ways to manage a tourism company, you can maybe do consulting. If you say, I have a company here on Curaçao, I would like to have Colombians visit me, that's also possible. As I said, a growing middle class looking for new experiences is aware of these islands really close to their country, and so this is also a good opportunity. Similar consumption patterns also, and we see the cultural similarities in the business culture, and this is actually something I have here on the next slide, which we see some similarities, we see also some differences, but I want to give you just some tips also for when you come to Colombia, when you come to Colombia, to keep this all in mind. First of all, hierarchy is quite important. So if you are the general manager of a company in Curaçao, it's good to see if you can speak to a general manager here. They like to be addressed, let's say, at their own level. They like to speak to their peers, and also it's a bit more formal, right? So we see it here in the bottom. It's also part of the hierarchy. So for example, the director of Holland House Colombia, the boss of Wouter and I, he's called Jan Willem. And I think Wouter and also myself, we just say in the morning, hey, Jan Willem, how are you doing? But all of our Colombian colleagues will say, hola, señor Jan. Buenos días, señor Jan. And even if Jan Willem tells them it's okay to not call me señor, it's really hard for them because he is the boss, and so you should speak to him with respect. So that is something good to keep in mind. It's a bit more formal, a bit more diplomatic, the communication, a bit more hierarchical, but at the same time, it's way more warm, right? So it's a relationship-based culture. Personal contacts and visits are very, very important. Maybe a funny story here. We have many different members, and one time one of those members said, hey, Wessel, it was the start of the year. And he said, hey, Wessel, I would like to speak about the projects for this year. Can we go have lunch? I said, of course, David, let's go have lunch. And I was a bit newer in Colombia, and I brought my notebook, I brought my pen, and I said, we are going to speak about the project that David has in mind for this year. But I come to the lunch, and he says, put the notebook away, how are you? And then he started talking about that he was playing tennis, but he broke his rib. Now he couldn't play tennis anymore. He had problems because his daughter had some issue in school because she was trying to read but wasn't advancing as quickly. And for an hour and a half, we were sitting there speaking about different things. And I had to go back to the office and I said, hey, David, very nice, but I have to go. But I remember you spoke something about a couple of projects. And he said, oh, yes, that's true. A, B, C, D, these are the projects for this year. And we actually executed most of those projects. We made a few proposals and continued talking to him. And this just goes to show that in Colombia, many times it's important to have this more personal relationship, right? And maybe go out to eat sometime or ask the other person how they are doing, whereas maybe in the typical Dutch fashion, I am a bit more direct and say, what are we going to talk about? Maybe on Curaçao, you are better at that than we are in Europe, for example. Good to know also that planning and time is a bit more flexible and it's relationship oriented. So when you get a call from someone, they also sometimes expect that you make time for them quite quickly because they say, but we have a good relationship, so am I not a priority to you? They don't say this explicitly, but you kind of notice it. And then very importantly, WhatsApp is very widely used. So also something that you notice that if you send an email, easily to be ignored, but WhatsApp is the quickest and usually the best way to come and stay into contact with different Colombian entrepreneurs. And I believe on Curaçao it's actually also used quite widely. So that was something about the Colombian economy and about the Colombian culture. And now I will give the word to Wouter to tell you way more about the trade relationship that exists between Curaçao and Colombia. Wouter, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, Wessel, for this introduction and the information. Effectively, I will talk a little bit more about the trade relationship. We will dive a little bit more into the detail of how this relationship has been over the past years, a little bit of numbers from last year, from 2024. We will look a little bit about the sectors, the industries where we see the most potential for the entrepreneurs from Curaçao to work together with their Colombian counterparts. And of course, we will end with the full details on the mission we are going to organize, or we are organizing basically by May for this year. And why this mission should be your most important event of this year. So first, the slide we have on right now, this is the sectors and the export numbers percentages from last year, from 2024. So we are talking here about the export from Curaçao to Colombia. In total, I think the worth was around a little bit over $70,000. So it's not really like a very big part, but it's still interesting to look at which sectors were important last year. So what we see here, the first and by far the biggest part, so 1/3 of all exports from Curaçao to Colombia were in the electronic equipment sector. Then about 22% in the chemical products, metal products, and a little bit over 10% in agriculture as well. If we look at the next slide, which is the other way around, we can see the imports from Colombia to Curaçao. Here we are talking big numbers. This is way over $50 million. So this is obviously a lot bigger than the exports from Curaçao to Colombia. And we also see many sectors. I think it might not come as a surprise that agriculture is the biggest sector of export from Colombia. Well, I think it's widely known, it's commonly known among every business entrepreneurs all around the world. I would say that Colombia is a very productive country. the terrain here, the climate, the different weathers we have all around the country here, and make it perfect for agricultural production. Basically, all around the country, I think we have from sea level up until like 5,500 meters of altitude. So it goes from a very tropical weather to even to you can see some snow even in the highest parts of the mountains. So this makes for let's say the terrain in Colombia very nice for all types of agricultural production. So Colombia obviously is very known for this. The second biggest category we see here is processed food. So it would still be like in the agricultural, let's say, corner, but it's already processed here. So this is also very interesting for Curaçao. So you can just buy your finished goods, your ready for consumption goods already from Colombia, and then you can just bring it to Curaçao and sell it over there again. And then at third place, fashion and clothing. The fashion industry here in Colombia is really big. So this is also very interesting and very interesting sector, a very interesting industry for Curaçao to look at. You can basically buy all types of clothes here for all types of weather, also beach wear. So it's probably one of the biggest and most interesting sectors also to take a look at. And then at 4 and 5, there's chemical products and rubber and plastic products. So it's a bit more to the industrial side of it. What we can also see here in the graph, on the left side of the graph, is that there are many other categories, very small at this point. But I think it kind of shows, let's say, the productivity of Colombia. You can really see that they are very versatile. So they have a lot to offer. They can basically any product you can need on the island of Curaçao, Colombia is ready, and Colombia is able to produce it and to get it to you. So also all these small categories, well, could be very interesting for the entrepreneurs from Curaçao to explore, because surely there is something for you, some interesting stuff for you as well here in the smaller categories. Next, please. Yes. So if we dive a little bit more into the sectors and the specific products and services, that was one thing I actually forgot on the past slides. What we saw in the graphs were only products, because those graphs were based on the data we get from customs here in Colombia. So these show only goods, they do not include any services. This is also probably the reason you see that the export from Curaçao to Colombia is relatively low, because probably one of the biggest export products for Curaçao would be services, which were not included in the graph. So that's something I think is I forgot to mention, but it's important to mention. We'll talk a little bit more into detail about services in a couple of minutes in a couple of slides. So what we see here is some of the interesting products and services from Curaçao to Colombia. We see, for example, in products, you can think about cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, or orthopedic appliances. In agro-industrial, so processed goods, that which should also be interesting to export from Curaçao to Colombia, such as beverages, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic, or maybe dairy products. And probably one of the most important sectors to look at if you want to export from Curaçao to Colombia would be services. So all types of services are very well developed in Curaçao. Curaçao is probably a bit more advanced in all those types of services than Colombia. So there's great potential in all of these services. I think 𝗏𝗀 already mentioned most of them. Could be financial services, maritime services, logistics, recycling. Lots of potential for entrepreneurs from Curaçao to get their services into Colombia. Lots of needs also from Colombia to have these developments from other countries which are a bit more advanced than Colombia, and to get these services here into play as well in our country or in Colombia. Next, please. If we see the other way around, something we already saw a little bit in the graph as well. So what are interesting products if you are looking to buy from Curaçao, if you are looking to buy from Colombia, I must say. Um, Obviously, the agricultural sector very strong, both fresh, so fresh fruits, for example, the tropical fruits, flowers. I think Colombia, after the Netherlands, is the second largest exporter in the world of flowers. The logistics for flowers here is close to perfect, I would say. You can get fresh flowers which are harvested in the morning. You can get them probably in the evening, to have them on your dinner table and to surprise your wife. So that would be a very interesting product as well to look at. Also, for example, for the wedding industry, which is probably very big on Curaçao, flowers, I think, is a very interesting product here to look at as well. On the processed food side as well, coffee and extracts, sugar, jams, all types of bakery products. So I think all types of agricultural products are very important here, to look at if you want to buy something in Colombia as an entrepreneur from Curaçao. What we also saw in the graph is the clothing. As I already said, basically all types of clothes are being produced here at pretty high quality. So you can have also home lines, you can have woven shirts, sportswear, beachwear, dresses for formal events as well. For example, for the wedding industry, which I just mentioned. So all types of clothes are very interesting as well. So if you are in the fashion sector, Colombia is definitely very important and a great market for you to check. A bit of bioproducts, and I think in the machinery section, also very important to look at stuff like construction material. So if you are in the construction sector on Curaçao, Colombia is definitely a very interesting market as well to get your construction material. Ceramics, aluminum, iron structures. This is all very widely available here in Colombia, at very good quality. And well, due to the proximity we already saw in previous slides, this is very interesting to look into if you work in these types of sectors. Now about the services. We already know this is a very interesting and a very big industry, let's say, for Curaçao as an export nation. We all know you are very innovative. You are, let's say, ahead maybe of many Latin American countries, so of many countries here in the region. So this is something you should definitely take a look at if you come to Colombia, for example, in logistics, for example, in financial service, for example, in everything that has to do with software, IT sector, telecommunications. We are definitely as a country, we are in need of nice advancements in the services sector, and we know Curaçao is like a couple of steps ahead of Colombia in all these services sectors. So this is something that has great potential for Curaçao as an export nation. Now, just to summarize a little bit what we have been talking about over the past, let's say, 25, 30 minutes, we are going to look at three separate situations. For sure, one of these three situations will apply to you and to your business. So we are looking at the possibilities if Curaçao or Caribbean is your market. That means if you are looking to buy products or services and get them to your home market. We will be looking secondly into if Colombia is your market, which means you are looking to sell and export your products and services into other markets, in this case, Colombia. And we will lastly look at the Netherlands or Europe as your market, where you as Curaçao will have like a bridge function between Colombia and the Netherlands, Europe. I will get into more detail into this when we get to the slide. So first, if Curaçao is your market, this might be the easiest situation. So you are looking to buy products or services from Colombia to bring them to Curaçao, and to sell them over there, or to provide the customers from Curaçao with these products or services. As you already know the market because you are on your home turf, you know your customers, you know what they want, you know all let's say all specifics of the products or services they are required on the island. And so this might be like the easiest market for you. You also know yourself. I mean, you know your company, your own strengths, maybe your own weaknesses as well. So, for example, if you are into the IT sector, you know which type of technology you can buy, you can get from Colombia, and you are able to trade that on your home market in Curaçao. So it's basically import of goods or services. And Curaçao could also be functioning as a hub for the Caribbean region. I think it already functions as a hub for some other islands, for example, Bonaire, which is like your little brother island or little sister island, where you already have a function as a logistics hub for the island. But why not think of other Caribbean islands as well? There are obviously lots of small islands in the Caribbean region, so you can also function as a hub to get the imports, to get the goods and services from Colombia and to distribute them further into the Caribbean region. Then secondly, if Colombia is the market, we already kind of saw that there's a very wide range of sectors where your products or services can apply. So this is if you are looking to sell your products or services into the Colombian market. For example, ICT obviously is a very, let's say, hot topic at the moment, and also something where Colombia needs, well, let's say, a lot of, well, advanced new technologies. So this is something where Curaçao can play a big role. Interesting, maybe also to mention financial services. We saw that before as well. Renewable energy. I think the whole hydrogen topic is also um, very well, let's say, up and coming, or maybe it's already there, but there's still a lot of work to do as well. So Curaçao can also play a very interesting role there. Or maybe in the creative industries, for example, if you are into designing, if you are into publishing, if you are into, let's say, fashion designing or web page designing, this is also very interesting to look at Colombia as a very big market to expand your business. So there's basically a very wide range of sectors here in Colombia, which should be very interesting for you to look into. And the last, if the Netherlands or Europe is the market, this might sound a bit weird at first, but it's really not. I mean, you know both sides of the ocean, let's say. So if a Colombian entrepreneur is to negotiate directly with someone from the Netherlands specifically, or someone from Europe more in general, there could be a lot of barriers. We already saw, well, language barriers, of course. Few people in the Netherlands, at least, speak Spanish. Maybe few people in Colombia speak English, and even fewer Dutch. So that would be a barrier for Dutch and Colombian entrepreneurs to get into business. Also, cultural differences. I think Wessel already explained a couple of the cultural differences, which are definitely very true. So you can have a big role here, let's say, as a bridge, because you know both sides of the ocean. You and Curaçao, well, you speak both languages, you know both cultures. So there's a very good opportunity and a very great potential to get into this like bridge function where you can take advantage of your language skills and your cultural knowledge to identify the necessities of the Colombian market. For example, if you were to buy technology in Europe and you can sell this into Colombia or even broader into Latin America, and you can all do this because of your knowledge, your cultural knowledge, and your language knowledge from both sides of the ocean. So this is a very interesting, let's say, a very interesting methodology, or a very interesting scheme to look into as well, being a company from Curaçao. Well, I think we have spoken about a million reasons why this mission is the most important event this year, and why you should definitely join this mission. Because if not, you are missing out on probably the biggest and the most important event you can have in 2025. So we will talk now just a little bit more about the details of the mission itself. The mission is planned for May 19th to May 22nd. That is Monday to Thursday. So we will have probably the 19th will be the day where you will arrive. We will probably have some small, let's say, welcoming event in the evening, and then we will have 3 full days to have a great program for you, a great agenda for you here in Colombia. The deadline for registration is in a week, so we should hurry a little bit to get you all registered. I see 37 people joining in this call, so I expect at least 37 registers after we finish this webinar. And the last thing and most important, or well, not most important, but definitely important for you to take into account is the participation fee per company. It's not per person. If you want to come with 2 people from the same company, this is allowed, and this would be at the same fee. So we have here 950 euros plus taxes. Then about the program, what are we going to do? We have a full program, a very big agenda to get into only probably 3 days or 3.5 days, let's say. So first of all, networking events. We will definitely have like a welcoming event, relatively informal, I would say, where we just get the big group from all the islands together with the group of Colombian counterparts, and we'll just have one very big networking event to all get to know each other. This will be a group event, but we will also have an individual event, which will be the business matchmaking, where we will find for each and every single company from the islands, we will find the Colombian counterparts and have individual matchmaking meetings. Probably, let's say, 15-20 minute meetings with all of the Colombian counterparts. This will be a probably very busy day, where we'll have a session in the morning, a session in the afternoon, and we will have just a very full agenda for all of the participating companies to talk to as many Colombian counterparts as possible during the day. We'll have probably field visits, which will be a group activity again. So depending a bit on the participants and their sectors, we will find interesting field visits here in Colombia. Roundtable discussions where we will have external experts to talk about interesting topics. For example, could be something like logistics, but there are, let's say, many interesting topics to talk about, and we can find some external experts here in Colombia to lecture us all a little bit more about these topics. And we are scheduling to have a premiere, which is the documentary 𝘞𝘶𝗶. I don't know if you have heard about this documentary. This is about the Caribbean architecture and, let's say, the relations between culture on the one hand and architecture on the other hand. So this documentary basically goes about I think it's like 25 years of architecture on the Caribbean islands, which form part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, and how does the culture of all of these islands reflect into the architecture. The idea is to have this premiere together with a network reception to also invite lots of Colombian entrepreneurs. So we will have a great event around showing this documentary. And you will, of course, get the chance to meet Holland House Colombia, which is where we form part of the whole team. We are like 30 people in total, so it's a very big team. So that's also very interesting. Focus will be on Bogota, which is by far the biggest city here in Colombia. But we will definitely have possibility to visit the second cities, such as Medellin, which is the second city. But there are also other interesting cities depending on the sector you represent. We can take into account for the agenda. So how do you participate? Registration is open, and it is at the link. I think I saw one of the questions already was if we were going to share this presentation. Of course, we will definitely share this presentation afterwards, probably through the Chamber of Commerce on Curaçao. So you can, let's say, if you then get the presentation, you can see all the links here in the presentation. Or on the other side, if you want to, you can also visit our website You can just put into Google Holland House Colombia, you will get to our website, and on the events section of our website, we have lots of information as well, specifically regarding this mission. And you can also find the link for the registration form on our website. The form looks like the image on the right side. It's not a very big form, but it has a couple of very interesting questions where we ask you about your experience in Colombia, your expectations, which type of companies you would like to come into contact with. So those are a couple of very important questions for you to fill out when you register, because this will give us all the information to get the agenda as correct and as to the point as possible. As I said, the registration is open until the 28th of March. So there's only a few days left to register, only 8 days actually, which is very short. And there are still only a few spots left. Well, we all expect you and we all hope you will join. And after this webinar, get to the link to the registration form and fill out the form. Think we are getting to the end of our part of this webinar. So here's a little bit of contact details on the previous slide. If you have any additional questions or if you have any doubts, you can always get into touch with us, with Wessel, with me, or with any of our colleagues. So just send us an email, or we can also share cell phone numbers and get into touch through WhatsApp. So I think that was it from our side. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for attending this webinar. I think we will go to Kishanti for the question and answer section.